This is Rebecca from Conversations with Annassa. The guides are coming in. So let's start with a brief meditation. We have a little different format this morning because Brenda's in a different location and there's been a huge snowstorm. And so we're trying something different. So take your attention inside. So this morning, we're just going to share with you what's happening with us and see if you can join in our meditation, which is at the moment, instead of focusing on the chakra system, which we do in most of our meditations, we're in quite a state of expansion this morning. And so we would like to share that with you. So feel inside yourself and understand that the human body, especially the spiritual body, is not limited by time and space. And it goes through phases of expansion and contraction. And sometimes we can exert control. I mean, always we can exert some control over this expansion and contraction. And sometimes we can't. So just feel into your spiritual body and see if you can identify where you are in the phases of expansion and contraction. And it doesn't really matter, but we want you to think in this way and experience yourself in this way, because it's another dimensional experience that human beings can access. And again, you use your breath. And you allow yourself to experience yourself as just pure energy. And it's not that the body goes anywhere. It's that it recedes in importance. So you can always find it. So you just allow yourself to become aware of your energy body in expansion or contraction. And it doesn't matter which. We all go through phases of both. So just feel into your energy body and allow it to be as it is, and just experience that. And you can say into that space between the breaths, Om. So what we're experiencing, we'd like to share with you, and that is that it is though the heart is expanding out in concentric circles, like if you throw a stone into a pond. Feel that in yourself. And sometimes the heart will be felt as in giant contraction. So it's very, very small. And other times it will be so expansive that it includes everything that is. Both are true. Feel into that. As you're ready, gently bring your attention back into the space of communication. How may we serve this morning? We're so happy to be with you. What an honor and a pleasure.
We do have a question.
Okay.
Okay, so the question is, just says, good morning. I have a question for Annassa. I'm experiencing some health issues, and I have been feeling that I could use Ho'oponopono to help ease the disease. Your thoughts on this?
Well, of course, you can speak to the source of the disease with Ho'oponopono. And of course, you are speaking, as always, to your highest self. And in a way, bringing gratitude, love, peace, and joy to this experience, because you have the understanding that you have attracted this experience as the opportunity to resolve these energies, which are up until now have not been brought into harmony within you. So yes, disease can be that expression. And when viewed from this perspective, can be viewed as a gift to bring another part of oneself into the harmony of love, peace, joy, gratitude, and that which is beyond. And when we begin to regard every experience that we attract, positive or negative, as something to be taken into the whole, to be dissolved inside of us, to release any obstructions that keep us from experiencing ourselves as pure divine energy. When we understand that every experience that we attract is in service to that goal, just naturally as human beings, we are engaged in an evolutionary process that, in a way, is very logical, although it is not linear. So, since we perceive that logic in third dimensional language is linear, we're kind of limited in our perspective. But if we can at least open our mind to the idea that linear is only a very small part of the truth. Of course, it is true, but it's only true in the third dimension. And as we expand our inner experience, then linear logic no longer makes any sense. And we're entering into a field that we could call the logic of gratitude. Because gratitude is a much easier thing for us to understand than love. And in some ways, it's more powerful because gratitude doesn't have any expectation attached to anything outside of us. And when we think about love, we automatically think about it in terms of relationship to other. So if we are in a nonlinear practice, a nonlinear understanding within ourselves, then we understand that there actually is no other. And so gratitude is it's a more realistic practice because it takes us immediately to our relationship with the whole, which interestingly is the same as our relationship with the deepest part of ourselves. And from the experience of gratitude within ourselves, we can actually get to that oneness possibly a little bit quicker than with the idea of love. So, first of all, feel into that gratitude. Think of 3 things in your life that you're grateful for and watch your internal state change. It happens that fast. Isn't that amazing? So, gratitude is a foundational practice for us, and it takes us right to the whole of ourselves very, very quickly. So, we want you to think about the idea of the logic of gratitude, and that gratitude actually takes us into this expansion with ease because we have no expectation of other in the field of gratitude. Instead, it's us relating to ourselves with joy. Feel into it again. 3 things you're grateful for. Can you begin to feel the joy in that? The appreciation of what we've been given, which is a lot. You know, that we have the opportunity to sit in meditation and to have these discussions regularly. This means that most of our problems are first world problems. Means that a lot of what people deal with in life is not distracting us because we have time and energy to focus on our personal connection to our own divinity. What a gift this is. We have time to feel. Understand that it's a gift to have time to feel. Many of us have spent large parts of our lives so busy that we didn't feel like we had time to feel. So we can be grateful for that. And as we age, to have time to feel, to really tie together all of our experience and live from gratitude, love, peace, joy in ourselves, to really cultivate these things now before we let go into whatever's next with joy and gratitude for what has passed. This is the opportunity that we are given in this communion that we share in this moment. We hope that answered the question. We've forgotten what the question is by now. But please ask us again if we didn't go anywhere near it. How may we serve further?
Good morning, Dr. Becky.
Good morning, David.
How are you?
Just fine. So happy to see you.
I know we're thrilled to be here. And this is more of a comment than a question, but if you can make a question out of it, that's great. I love the metaphor of the snow up there in Portland because it's symbolic of rebirth and renewal. And well, it's just some of my favorite memories are from being in Portland when we were snowed in for a week. And although I was irritated that I couldn't get the mail, it was great to be able to just go out and play in the snow and have the perfect excuse not to be working.
Yes. And it's happening over the Chinese New Year, which was Friday.
That's right.
And so it's the perfect time, it's the perfect moment for a complete reset.
Mhm.
And and naturally, when the Chinese New Year happens, it's all aligned with the end of winter and the beginning of spring.
Mm.
And so there is a major energetic shift, which is actually a rebirth. It's a rebirth of the earth.
Yeah.
And so when we're naturally aligned with that, our being participates in the rebirth, in the letting go of all the deadness of the winter and the peeking through of the life of the spring
Mhm.
as it begins to really engage us in a different level of participation in our lives. And so, with all of you who have participated with Annassa through these seasons, you can begin to feel your alignment with this rebirth into the real new year. This is when the new year starts, when we begin the spring with all the new shoots of life coming up. And so, all that we have cultivated through the fall and the winter, through slogging through the difficulties inside ourselves that may have gotten darker and darker as we approach this new year. And then suddenly there's this rest period in Portland where it's true, there's so much ice and snow that we can't even get to our driveway, let alone to the street. And we don't live far from the street, it's feet.
Wow.
And so everything in Portland has stopped.
Mhm.
And many people are without power. We're
Mhm.
very lucky that we have electricity
Mm.
and that we can actually participate in this meeting. So happy that you brought this up, because this change of the season, which actually happens over days, is quite dramatic internally when we're connected to it.
That's great.
So, and we know you're experiencing that, which is why you're talking about it.
Yeah, exactly. I wanted to acknowledge you because when I logged on the call today, I noticed the energetic shift. And I can, it really wasn't until you started speaking about it that it really became, I realized, oh, that's what's going on. So I wanted to just acknowledge the community that you've built, because when I logged on, I noticed Becky was there and Andrew was there and Julie was there and you were there, and the richness of that really came through. And I was really overwhelmed in the meditation with the gratitude and joy that this provides.
Thank you for that. We're so delighted to hear that it's coming across. We're so grateful for this community and the participation and the growing of it, and we want to apologize for not being available on Wednesday night for the meditation. And we'll share with you that the first thing we taught Rebecca when she started channeling was when not to channel, because it's very important to know your limitations. And whatever you're called to do in your lives, this is relevant. That when you feel energetically under the weather in any way, it means you shouldn't participate energetically with others until this storm passes. Whatever kind of storm it is, it doesn't matter, but it's like weather that comes through, and there are certain moments that may be longer or shorter where you can't access fully your highest self. And when that happens, it's good to just be quiet. It's good to just say, okay, I'm only about 60% in this moment. This isn't good enough for me to really participate with others. And so you just step away. You apologize and say, this isn't the best moment, and you gather your resources again and come back to the next moment of participation, and something different may be happening. And now we can say with some definitive experience that allowing that process to happen within us was what allowed Rebecca, we're having trouble with pronouns, allowing that process was what allowed the expansion that you're experiencing today. So it's important. And part of the reason that we talked about expansion and contraction this morning is it's important to know, to begin to recognize over time how your own being goes through expansion and contraction, and to remove the judgment. Because it's the self-judgment that creates the limitation to the process of rebirth that happens in going through a contraction and allowing it to be without judgment. So this is really, really important. And so how do we experience contraction? There are a number of ways. Most of us, when we experience contraction in our lives, get into some negative emotion. We'll experience it as depression or anger or frustration or some kind of limitation, because we can feel this energy just closing in like this, and our heart turns into a golf ball that's like solid. And it's very hard to let that happen without judgment, especially when you don't understand it. And most of us don't. We just feel like, there's just this kind of yucky feeling inside, like we can't get to the gratitude or the love or the peace or the joy. And we judge ourselves very harshly when that happens. So we're here to tell you that judgment actually makes that limitation much, 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 much worse. And so it's very important to regard this as a changing of the seasons within us, to begin to see it as just a contraction, especially if we can't see any reason for it on our horizon. And this brings us to a really important point about emotions. Very often we experience emotions and then we search in our world around us for the reason we feel what we feel. And when we do that, we're denying ourselves the opportunity to act within our deepest and just experience the feeling itself and kind of detach. We witness the feeling, but we don't look for an explanation of the feeling on the outside, because very often our feelings start on the inside, and then we do something on the outside that we think is responding to what's doing this to us, when really we may just be going through a creative phase of rebirth and completely disrupting it with our self-judgment. So if we begin to feel contracted and disharmonious within ourselves, Ho'oponopono is certainly the thing to do. If it's manifesting as physical symptoms, we can also do Ho'oponopono with the assumption that the physical symptoms are the manifestation of a deeper disharmony that we're trying to resolve into our field of awareness. This does not mean exactly that we're responsible for our physical symptoms, because it's a lot more complicated than that. It's not linear. Everything has so many different variables floating into what manifests that we cannot say, oh, I'm manifesting this because I did that. The lines are just not, there's no certainty in those lines of thought. there can be comfort because we've kind of assigned something reasonable, but that doesn't mean it's true. And we'll give you an example. Rebecca, a year or two ago, had a knee problem that just like showed up like that. You know, 1 minute she was walking fine, and the next minute she couldn't even stand up without a cane. And there was no injury. And she ended up attributing it to a metabolic change that she had made fairly abruptly. She put her body into ketosis. And so she thought maybe that triggered an osteoarthritis event. But that's a sort of cerebral explanation for something very physical that happened. We finally shared with her, actually just this morning, that was caused by a knee that was broken in another life. And because she had accessed the emotional reaction and causal configuration of that particular experience and had brought it forward to be resolved, she suddenly had the symptom of the injury. And for 6 weeks, she couldn't walk. It was really quite dramatic. And the people close to her were worried because this happened for no reason, and it lasted a long time. And we can tell you the experience she had standing at the top of the stairs going, I have no idea how to go down the stairs because this leg doesn't work. And the same thing at the bottom, trying to envision hopping on one foot up the stairs was impossible. It doesn't work that way. And suddenly, after 6 weeks, completely gone. No evidence remains. There was an MRI that showed inflammation. So understand that physical symptoms are not always what we think they are. They could be the symptom of an upgrade that looks like a downgrade spiritually. We have no way of knowing. So to judge ourselves when we have physical symptoms and find ourselves lacking really just makes us feel bad in a situation where we truly have no idea who's doing what to whom, and blame is not appropriate. So we just say, okay, I can't walk. I'll say ho'oponopono into all the feelings I have about that inability to walk, which did happen during that period. Who knows if that's, it didn't resolve quickly. 6 weeks is a long time not to be able to walk. But it's interesting that, 2.5 years later, the explanation appears. Who knows why that time lag? Let's ask. So what they're saying is that at that time, Rebecca did not have the life experience with, how we've shared with you that reincarnation is not a linear event, that instead there are parallel lifetimes that are happening, that occasionally the timelines get close enough that we're participating in more than one, or we jump from one to another. She didn't have enough experience at that time of these intersections of life paths that explanation would have been helpful. By now, she's had a couple of couple or three of those experiences. And so it makes sense in that context. So we know this is going to create more questions than it answers, but we want to share it with you because it's important information about human evolution. And it's not that we're different from you, it's that we're a little bit further along so we can reach back and give you a hand as you begin to have these experiences yourselves so that we can guide you through them. That's what a guide is for, to provide an energy source and a hand, a helping hand when you're crossing the river. How may we serve further this morning? We love this conversation.
I'm Joan Stevens. Can you hear me?
Yes, Joan.
Okay.
So happy to hear your voice. Welcome.
Yeah, I've kind of just been a shadow here, but not in spirit. I would like to talk with my ally, and I don't really know how to do that. I feel a strong sensory being with her, if that helps.
By your ally, do you mean your spiritual spiritual presence?
You know, that's part of the question. I think it's I don't know what things are called. I just know I have this experience. I think that's a way to put it.
So
And found her through meditation.
yes. So we want to tell you that this experience is you. This is a deeper part of you coming into awareness. And it's very, very important that you understand that this isn't any other. This is you experiencing your highest self. And so one of the first things that happens as that awareness dawns, at least in our experience, is fear, because it's something you've never felt before. And so we encourage you to, if fear arises or any other judgment about this, to say Ho'oponopono and reach into this experience with complete allowing, because this is your own inner seeking to express itself to and through you. It's what we would call a higher dimensional experience of yourself beginning to awaken. And this is a cause for great celebration, great celebration. And as you feel this, it's as though you are breathing God through your experience of this awakening. Can you feel into that? Right?
Yes, I'm having some wonderful experiences.
Yes. So you breathe into that. We'll call it the breath of God. So you begin to breathe that as you and understand that that is you.
Wow.
Yes. And so this is not some other, because there is no other. And as you begin to experience yourself as this energetic body, you can constantly remind yourself you are breathing God. And that will take you right back to it.
Oh, my.
Yes. Isn't that beautiful? We are delighted with your experience.
Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you so much for sharing. This is available to all of us. and we welcome it. It is the breath of God breathing you. Mm. We encourage you to welcome this with everything you have. This is the inner teacher.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. How may we serve further?
We do have a question from somebody who says they are new, and could you please explain Ho'oponopono?
Oh, sure. Ho'oponopono is a Hawaiian practice that we have found to be very, very helpful in addressing any emotional disharmony that arises within us. So the first thing we want to say about Ho'oponopono is to say that whenever we experience emotional disharmony, we strive to regard it as a gift, because it's a gift to us from our inner self about some pattern that's unresolved that we wish to bring into harmony so that we can become more and more aware of ourselves as energetic beings. And this undissolved emotional disharmony in us, which has crystallized, begins to melt as we sit in meditation, and then the disharmony will rise up in us to be resolved into harmony. Most of the time we feel that, we react with self-judgment and we push it down further. So Ho'oponopono is a practice that gives us the opportunity to welcome this negativity. So the first thing we do is we give it a name. I feel angry, I feel sad, I feel disharmonious if we can't name it any other way, or we may feel 5 emotions at the same time. We just list them all and we pick the one that's strongest. Okay, we don't try to work on all 5 at once. We just pick the one that's strongest. And then it's very important that as you say these words, you are addressing them to your highest self, which exists within you. So you say, I'm sorry. Please forgive me because I'm not in alignment. Thank you. I love you. So in this way, with these 4 sentences, you can address any disharmonious pattern within you, and you continue to say it with great feeling, because what you are doing is you're trying to create a pathway through that disharmony to your inner highest, your highest inner being, your highest self, your connection to your own divinity. You are saying Ho'oponopono to that, because that is what spiritual work is about cultivating, is that pathway between you and your highest self so that you can become your highest self, that you actually awaken this, experience it, and become this bigger field of information and experience. So that's what Ho'oponopono is for. It's a very direct way to connect to your deepest self through the difficult emotions as you dissolve them out of yourself and release them so that you become an ever greater and greater congruent field of awareness, which is expressed as gratitude, which builds the whole thing. And so we're talking about the logic of gratitude and how that becomes a harmonious, connected being to our own divinity. And we used to use the word love, but love has too many meanings, and it's so much about other that we find gratitude to be a much more real expression of our contact with our divinity. We hope that answers your question. How may we serve further? What a delightful day. Happy New Year, everyone. We're so happy to be with you. So we don't really mind these moments of quiet. They give us an opportunity to transmit without the distraction of words. So we're going to tell you that Ho'oponopono is a practice of transmutation. So what we're doing is we are transmuting and dissolving these crystallized old experiences throughout this life and then throughout other lives. And again, this is a nonlinear experience. So it doesn't matter really what lifetime or what timeline, those things are irrelevant and can only be known in hindsight. So we tell you about our experiences so that you begin to embrace anything new that starts to show it to you from inside yourself, that you embrace whatever appears with a sense of joy and allowing that whatever is beginning to rise up in you is in your highest best interest, whatever it is, positive, negative. And we cultivate within ourselves the capacity to witness our inner experience without judgment. This is what we're cultivating so that we're not in reaction to this inner experience. We're not acting out unconsciously, which is what creates more reaction and density in our outer experience, so that we can get so distracted that we can't even participate in our inner. So if we cultivate our inner as something to be witnessed and interacted with as it begins to flow through our experience, rather than reacting to it as though it's something from the outside stimulating some response, then we start to have a different experience of our life. And our participation in it becomes much more conscious, so that we are actually acting in our own highest best interests and the highest best interests of everyone else, because we're acting from a much deeper place in ourselves that is naturally connected to our own highest best interests, which is naturally connected to the highest best interests of the whole. We hope that makes sense. How may we serve further?
On this topic, can you talk more about the energy that you, or that is coming through you to us, and how we best receive it and what our systems consciously or unconsciously do with it. Like, how do we allow it to change us? How do we take it in?
So you can regard the energy that comes through us also as a transmission that makes more accessible within you the breath of God within you. This is, how do we say it? The frequency of the energy that is coming through to you in this moment is meant to serve the highest, best interests of the whole. So we'll say it this way, although it's making linear something that's really nonlinear. So it's taking 12th dimensional energy and making it available to you in a frequency that you can receive. We'll say it like that. Understand that that is from our perspective, that's not exactly what's happening, but it's the closest we can get to expressing it in your linear language. And so the best way to receive this is to cultivate a state of allowing. So this is where to be the warrior is to be soft and receive. And yes, we are spiritual warriors. But this particular aspect of our being is encouraging the expansion of our awareness into divine matrix and out of matrix of belief. So matrix of belief is what we were given as children and throughout our lives as the matrix of belief that allows us to survive socially. It's the understanding that we were given that this is the way to behave and these are the reasons why. And most of the matrix of belief has been delivered to us in order to control us and keep us behaving in a way that makes our interaction in the world predictable, controllable, and keeps us working from the perspective of production and giving and receiving in this way that makes us dependent on pouring our energy outside of us and expecting return from the outside that validates our being. When we take our attention inside and allow higher frequencies to inform us about the reality of who and what we are, we begin to dissolve this matrix of belief and replace it with the understanding that arises in us from our connection, our natural connection to divine matrix, which is the truth of what we are, where we came from. If we say where we're going, that implies that there's a goal. And here's the truth of human evolution. The truth is that there is always more. yes, enlightenment is possible, but it's not something that is static. Enlightenment is more, and then more, and then more beyond your wildest imagination. There is no limitation to the field of enlightenment. There is no limitation to the field of the all that is. And so our goal is greater and greater participation. So to think that there is some arrival point is not really true. And certainly from the perspective of third dimensional awareness, there is no arrival point. But we are growing too from the 12th dimension. We are growing and in expansion, as are all the dimensions beyond. So everything in the multiverse is growing and expanding in awareness. And so as we expand ourselves, our participation and the availability of information in that expansion will inform us who and what we are and how to participate in the highest best for the highest best of everyone that we interact with. So humanity is in a precious state of expansion where humanity is getting ready to make the leap from third dimensional awareness to fifth dimensional awareness. And as this happens, we can say that fifth dimensional awareness is the awareness that the whole, that the earth already contains all of the abundance necessary to support all of us. And that what is required on our part is to come into harmony with the earth and with each other so that we are working in community for common goals. And when we do that, then harmony naturally asserts itself. Now, the way that happens is not going to be from some external force that comes in and says, this is the truth. That's not the way it can happen, because as you notice, these external forces come in and create more polarity. They are not creating union, they're creating polarity. So our job is to expand ourselves into fifth dimensional awareness. And that fifth dimensional awareness begins in the center of all polarities, in the center which allows both polarities to exist and doesn't declare right or wrong, doesn't judge, just allows. And that will create a huge reaction within us. And as we bring that reaction into harmony with Ho'oponopono, then our ability to expand and encompass all sides of all polarities will grow. When we understand that as human beings, having many parallel life experiences, we contain within us all experience, all human experience. Each of us has access to everything because we have done it, because there is no such thing as past, present, and future. Time just is, and it's not what we think it is. And so those two sentences probably took you somewhere you've never been before. That's a good thing. Allow yourself to begin to experience the idea that time is not what we think it is. It's not linear. We have agreed on our concept of time. That doesn't mean it actually exists.
Is it the time that's not linear or our experience in that time that's not linear?
It's our, well, how can you separate the two, first of all? You can't really. So what we're saying is that time as we have agreed to experience it is a matrix of belief. And quantum physics is talking about this, that time doesn't really exist. They're, as a science, discovering the truth of that. So what we can say is that what exists, the truth of what exists is this moment. And so to be living in time is to be in this moment, to be truly in this moment without distraction into any other moment that is expected or that we think already happened. Because you understand that our awareness is interpreting everything according to our matrix of belief as we move through our lives. And it's ordering everything as though it's happening like this. When if we really feel into our experience, there is only now. And in this now moment, the more you can participate with all of your awareness in this now moment, the closer you are to the God in yourself. And as you breathe into that and allow it to expand, you begin to experience yourself as timeless. Timeless space. Allow that. And we have within ourselves that which recognizes truth. And so we know that truth is a visceral experience. And when we have that experience of ourselves as the breath of God, we know it's true. We just know. And we're home. And then we cultivate that and we hold it, and it just gets bigger and bigger. And we live from the truth of that in ourselves.
Can you expand on this and how it pertains to dreams?
Well, dreams, we can think of dreams in a way as the unwinding of the mind. So very often our mind is kind of wrapping itself around things as we go through our day, because many of us experience our lives mostly through our minds. That's certainly what we've been taught, especially in Western culture, is that the most important part of ourselves are our thoughts. So we're here to tell you that the thoughts, being captured by our thoughts, is being captured into the whole matrix of belief of reward and punishment. So understand that that's where thinking goes. We're not against thinking. We do it all the time. We encourage Rebecca to be constantly learning. So the mind is not something that we're against, not at all. but understand that the mind is powered by the breath of God. This breath that brings us into gratitude. So that when we are powered by the gratitude, then our experience is informed by that gratitude and our mind becomes available in a different way. And the reason we're saying this as a segue into the dream experience is that then dreams from that perspective become a place where we're actually experiencing ourselves as multidimensional beings. Now, when that happens, very often we go through phases of not being able to access our dreams or only accessing our dreams when they come into our emotional awareness or some dimensional awareness that we have language for, because we have no language for quantum awareness. Our language is linear. It doesn't go there. And this is the reason that we, Annassa, speak to you mostly in energetic language. We speak to you through transmission and transmutation. And we do our best with words through Rebecca. But the words are quite linear and often very difficult for us to get our point across without reducing it. Because if you notice, words create limitation around experience. You know, words define experience, and that very act of defining is, you know, the experience is this, when really the experience is this. But we don't have a word except this. We don't have a word for this. So this is the problem with language. And see, even in trying to explain it, we are reducing it, because really it's like all of this. And so language creates, by definition, it limits what we're saying. And the thing about quantum experience is it's a field where there is not limitation. And so this is why we even have trouble talking to you about what fifth dimensional experience is, because it's primarily experience that is generated from the inside. And so in fifth dimensional awareness, we will naturally be living from gratitude, from love, peace, joy, and gratitude. We will be in that field of that which is beyond. And from that field of experience, all of abundance manifests for everyone. And so each one of us, as we come into fifth dimensional experience, become beacons of light that everyone around us follows, because that experience of the breath of God and the awareness of the truth of it is completely compelling. So our job in meditation is to allow that to come forward, because it exists within every single one of us, and to welcome every experience that presents itself from within us that is not that, to welcome that with open arms, to be loved into harmony, so that our experience of ourselves as divine awareness can expand and expand and expand. And that experience held by one person is felt by their entire sphere of influence which becomes greater and greater as this energetic expansion occurs. And that sphere of influence is felt by every person that we are connected to. And they naturally begin their own evolution because of their connection to us. So this happens naturally. And you can tell by the power of the experiences that happen when we go to the Annassa temple to resolve something unresolvable with a person in our lives, where things have gotten to the point where we can't really communicate in this dimension verbally or linearly. And so we carefully script a sentence or two that we would like to say in the Annassa temple to the person that we cannot say in the material world and have any good interaction, any hope of a reasonable interaction. We go to the person in the Annassa temple, we invite them, their highest self, to come present with our highest self. We deliver our message to them. We allow them to go. And in that process, they are impacted. And then we wait to see what that impact is. We don't go toward them to try to see what we've done. We wait. And over time, the power of that communication will demonstrate itself. And if it's a very difficult relationship, we may go every day for a certain period of time in our attempt to resolve within ourselves any disharmony, and at the same time, resolve any disharmony between ourselves and the other person. We hope that answers your question. We've forgotten what the question was, as usual, so please circle around and ask us again in case we neglected to actually answer what was asked.
How do you know? How do you know what how do I know or you know what I'm experiencing or what you're experiencing right now is not just a dream from some other parallel life and that it's just a momentary thing. But for me right now, what I'm experiencing right now feels like a long time, but it could just be a dream. How do you know that?
So the question is, we don't know if you could all hear it, but the question is, how do you know that what you're experiencing is not a dream? And the question is not just a dream. So the truth is, there is no way to know, but there is a certain way in which we trust our deepest self. And this trust is what we are cultivating and calling allowing. Because if we question the fundamental nature of our reality, which we are doing by questioning our matrix of belief and trying to allow something greater, divine matrix, to inform our being, what you're really asking is how we think, is how do we what's real? That's really the question. What's real? How do we know what's real? And the truth is that in many moments of our experience of the now, when we are embracing the breath of God in ourselves and allowing it to become more and more potent in our daily experience, as our matrix of belief shifts, our reality, our perception of reality also shifts. This can cause us to feel like we're going insane because we don't know what's what. This is the reason, one of the reasons why we're here. We are guides to tell you emphatically, this experience that you're having is the rising up of the breath of God, and to be welcomed, to be enjoyed, to be engaged, to allow yourself to become more and more and more. And yes, that this will threaten your belief, every matrix of belief that you have about who and what you are. But the benefits are so great. They are so great. The experience of oneness with the whole, the experience of union within yourself gives such great confidence and such great expansion of gratitude that this is to be cultivated whatever the cost. And it has within it an internal logic of gratitude that does explain it to you. It explains itself to you, and you recognize it through your own visceral sense of the truth as you experience it. So the only time when trust is required is before this awareness has integrated itself deeply through you, before you can experience it as gratitude, and before the logic of the information begins to evolve through you, this trust is an act of faith. Before that happens, trust is faith. They are the same. Over time, as you experience over and over the logic of this gratitude expanding within you, and it informs you about itself, it's no longer an act of trust, but it's a participatory interaction of self with a small s and self with a large S, as you are going from the small s self to embodying the large S self, which is connected to divine matrix, which explains itself to us as it evolves in and through us. And this experience of unity within divine matrix is what we could call it as the beginning of our experience of something resembling enlightenment, but understand that this is just a new beginning into an ever expanding awareness of more and more and more. We hope that made sense. How may we serve further? Well, we're looking at the time, and it's 11:19, so maybe we should begin our meditation, unless there's something pressing that we can answer quickly. Anything? Okay, so we're going to rearrange our position a bit. Excuse us. Okay, so take your attention inside. And we'll use the Om sound again for meditation. And we will allow you to take that Om sound into any particular energy center that seems to be presenting itself as wanting attention. For us, we're again going to stay in the heart, just say the Om sound and participate in this ever expanding. They're not only concentric circles, but they are like a gyroscope of expanding concentric circles that are, they have the potential of multidimensional awareness. So we invite you to join us with that vision. Put your attention in the center of your heart, in the center of your chest, and begin to repeat the Om sound there and allow yourself to expand. We will again open our eyes and allow this transforming energy to flow through Rebecca to you. This is our gift from Annassa. We invite you to participate in whatever way feels right for you in this moment. Thank you so much for being with us today. We have so totally enjoyed this program with you. We're so honored and touched to be with you. So until Wednesday night, when we have our meditation, and if not, then next Sunday. So much love. Be well. We look forward to seeing you again soon. Bye for now.